Sorry. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session on creating partnerships at the local level, how to contribute to effective and integrated urban policies. My name is Stefania Gyftopoulou. I'm an architect and an urbanist, and I will be the moderator for this session. To those of you who are now joining online, please feel free to write your name in the chat box and where you're from as a sort of hello. And to all of us, let's make sure we think of our questions, as at the very end of the presentation, we're going to have 20 minutes for questions and answers. We are very happy to be here and have with us representatives from 4 cities, Halandri, Paris, Barcelona, and Thessaloniki. What these cities have in common is the belief that they can't act alone when it comes to responding to complex urban issues, and that there is a need to develop key partnerships to develop multi-stakeholder models of governance. Now, given the complexity of the urban challenges and in order to design and implement effective solutions, these 4 urban authorities have brought together a different mix of local stakeholders, having a stake in the policy challenge addressed, whether these are different departments within the municipality, public bodies, the private sector, and civil society. And they have done so to bring knowledge and technical expertise, but also to strengthen local democracy, letting citizens have a say in the process that affects their daily lives. The case studies are also diverse enough to showcase participation at different stages of policymaking or project cycle, from designing and action planning to implementation, all the way to evaluation. I'm sure that putting all these together will demonstrate the importance of a participative approach to leadership, and will open up a fruitful dialogue and exchange of useful resources and tools and new modalities of governance. I'll stop here and invite our first speaker, who is Kostas Gerolimatos. Kostas is Vice Mayor in the Municipality of Halandri and is also leading a UIA-funded project titled Cultural Hydrant. Kostas, the floor is yours.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Kostas Gerolimatos. I'm a mining engineer, and from the last 7 years, I am Vice Mayor in Halandri, a suburb of Athens, in north sector of Athens, concerning technical department, recycling, and e-governance. Firstly, let me say something about our town. Our town is the biggest suburb in the north sector of Athens, almost has 100,000 people. And at the moment, one big project that we have is we suggest in the urban innovative actions in the fifth, in the last in 2019, concerning the cultural, a proposal how we can make a relation of the city with an ancient aqueduct. A lot of centuries ago in the Roman age, from the Roman age, how it is possible to have contact the present with the past, having a relation with this aqueduct. The aqueduct is an underground construction. It's the biggest underground construction that exists in our town from the ancient times, and it was a challenge if we can, what we can do if we just make a museum and make something ordinary, something like when our children go to a museum and say, what's going on, say nothing, it's something boring. But we'd like to make a relation, to establish a relation between the present and the today and the tomorrow, maybe. So we try to make concerning the cultural heritage, the water commons from the water, and the a rearrangement of public space concerning the aqueduct, have actions inside the community concerning these three, let's say, packages of in our project. One issue that was firstly something that was obligatory on the UIA, of the project, is that must be exist apart from the partners that will contribute on the project, must be a range of stakeholders that will support and act as dissemination of what the project wants to do. So it's a big part of our project to dealing with have participatory actions dealing with the stakeholders. Our project has two kinds of stakeholders. Firstly was the high schools from our city, from secondary schools, and from ages to 5 to 15, 16. At the moment we have, firstly we have 5 schools. At the moment now we have another 4. And also we have the biggest environmental society that exists in our territory. And also the oral history team of Halandri that support us in concerning the cultural heritage section of actions. One big and what can I say, very crucial action of our project was the participatory planning with the schools. We were very unlucky because during the COVID crisis, everything that could be done in an easy way, because schools is something that is structural, has to do with the neighborhood, has to do with the parents, has to do with the teachers. It's something that if you have the permission to go inside and work inside the school community, it's something that can be accelerate a lot of things, can be very useful. But unfortunately, the last year was we can have action only in an electronic way by platforms, web platforms. Almost the schools in Halandri in all Greece was closed, and there was no physical contact, and it was completely, it's very difficult to have any kind of communication apart from the electronic. So apart from that, we tried with common space and have we make a lot of progress concerning what we wanted to do. The result was that 3 schools that was involved in the early stages of our project, the schools was how can I say, the study how the regeneration project of the territories that involved in the aqueduct that runs in Halandri, they will design how the regeneration project in their schoolyards and in front of their schools. There was 3 schools, as I said before. It runs in a difficult way due to the fact I described, but for the children that involved, there was a very big, what can I say, it was a very big experience. They make something different, that it was not something common that I've ever seen in the daily life of the school, and it was something interesting. Apart the fact that they live in their schools, they live in their neighbors, it's something very interesting to say to a young man, young girl, let's sit and discuss in which way we can redesign the public space, the road in front of our school, in front of our house. At the moment, this participatory design is running under better conditions because at the moment we are free, and we start the second year of actions in our project, and at the moment we start in 2 schools, and we until the April of 2022 we hope that we have participatory actions in another 7 schools, and if we can manage to have with the Green Fund of Greece relations, that is something that is planned. Also in the 3rd year of our project, we have also again we have actions in schools and in the neighbors concerning participatory actions. Also, apart from the schools, we have a big, very good relations, and relation have a very interesting actions concerning the oral history team. We have more than 50 interviews and videos concerning we're gonna say a lot of information on how the aqueduct, the ancient aqueduct, was involved in the daily life during 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, before our city have almost the icon that has today. And we think that these participatory actions we have in our project is part of the most fresh icon that exists in our project, and also it's a very good experience, and even for us in the municipality, in which way we can organize in we're gonna say in as an option of acting in the public space in the community to have participatory actions. Of course, there is a big problem because most of the services, of the public services, are not so friendly on the idea that we have participatory. They will participate in participatory action with the people, with pupils, with citizens. I remember in the first year in 2015, when we tried to have the first attempt, they strictly denied to take any action concerning this option that is not high mathematics, something very common in the European practice, but usually if you are too much conservative, you cannot accept that something different than your experience may occur and happen, and how the biggest problem is when it must be participate in this. So at the moment, the participatory actions are working quite well, and we hope that in our agenda from the next period, we will accelerate this kind of options in other parts of our obligations as a municipality. The next step is to start this kind of discussion with the community concerning recycling and bio-waste treatment. That is something that is at the moment a big issue, not only for Halandri, but also for another cities that is in the Attica region, the biggest region in Greece.
Thank you very much, Kostas, for this very interesting presentation. I think that this is a very interesting collective learning process to build mutual trust between the public administration and other stakeholders involved, especially the citizens. I know that Halandri is investing a lot of time and effort in involving citizens through different events and activities and workshops. And I do think that what you are doing well is the consistency of those activities. So it's not a one-off consultation, but instead you continue to go back to the neighborhoods and go back to the neighborhoods, which, as you said, it's very important, because neither the public administrations, but nor we, the citizens, are very familiar with such processes. So thanks again for your presentation. We can now continue to Raphaelle Thioller, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Raphaelle is from the city of Paris. She is program manager for the Oasis project. And Raphaelle, if you are with us, the floor is yours.
I am. Thank you so much. I sent my presentation. I don't know if it's me that has to share it or if participants can see it. I don't know. So sorry. Do you know?
Yes. Do you want us to share your presentation?
If you can, it's perfect. But I can also. Sorry, I don't know. But I can, if you prefer. What is the best? Sorry.
We found it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yes, I am Raphaelle Thioller from the city of Paris. I am the Oasis project manager for the city of Paris. I am leading the project in Paris since 2 years and a half now. And it's very enthusiastic project. And I will share where we are with you today. So yes, you can continue. Thank you so much. So for the context of the project, it's a project which is a goal of the Paris Climate Plan and also an action of the resilience strategy of Paris, the way to adapt Paris to face the challenges which are which we have to expect in the next decade. So it's really a project which is concerning the adaptation of the city. And it's also a project which is an action in the ERDF, Urban Innovative Action. It's a program from the Europe, and we had very useful funds to develop this project. And it's almost finished now, this European program, but we really are excited about what we could have done with this program and how we will upscale the project after that. So you can go ahead. Thank you. So concerning the main objectives of the project, there is many of them because it's really a holistic approach, this Oasis approach, but the idea is really to have new schoolyards for children and to have appropriate places to promote healthy development and well-being of children. It's really the idea which is in the heart of the project, to have new schoolyard. Children in France are spending 3 hours a day in the schoolyard, so they need to have a very interesting environment to play. And the idea is to have more nature in the schoolyard for everybody, because it's really a way to have well-being, to be in nature. And also it's a participatory process, this project, because we are having a phase of co-design with children. I will show you some photos after that. And also the schoolyard are open to the public during weekends. And so it's also, these openings are also an occasion to involve citizens in the openings of the schoolyard. And it's also, as I said, an climate adaptation project. And the idea is to cool the city and create cooler islands in the city. We can go. Thank you. It's really a matter of renew the perception we have of a schoolyard and what a schoolyard can be. You have 2 photos here. One it's a schoolyard without transformation in Paris. As you can say, it's a bit empty. And it's another schoolyard, but it's one of the schoolyard we transformed thanks to the European Fund. And you can see a lot of things we have had added to the project, and how the space is different for children. And it's really a matter of maybe society for everybody, because in these types of place, children have very different interactions and plays, of course, and way to live together. So it's really a matter of what kind of society we want to build, because in this first schoolyards, the children are often very boring, and a lot of conflicts occurred, and so it's not very also it's not a gender-friendly environment when you have nothing to do, because in a lot of schoolyard in France, football is everywhere, and the one who doesn't want to play football are really sad during time spent in schoolyard. So we really had to change the way to organize, and to organize our schoolyards. We can go on. Thank you. So as I said, the project is beginning with a co-design phase with children, and we have architects which are helping us to create new schoolyards thanks to the ideas of the children, and after that a discussion with the educational communities, teachers and extracurricular activities directors or animators. And so they are thinking about how the schoolyard can be organized in a different way, and also they observe how the schoolyard is working today, is organized today, and where the children are playing today, and what things we need to change or not. It's also the idea to use what is really okay today. We can go on. Thank you. So here you have a timeline to see how the project has evolved through the years, because it's a young project, but we already have a lot of differences between the beginning and now where we are. In the first transformation, it was something new, and we had new technical solutions, for example, but we were again in a very classical way to organize schoolyards. And the year after that, we have different ideas, and we had a lot of nature which were more involved. But after that, we had a study tour in Belgium in October 2019. And it was thanks to the European Fund, and it was really something important and decisive in the project, this study tour. We were 50 to participate, and we had a lot of ideas going back. So we wanted to transform the schoolyard in Paris in a very different way than before when we go back from Belgium. So now we are really continue to be inspired by the Belgium approach. So it was really interesting to see how this project really evolved through the years. We can go on. So you can see some pictures of the project. So as you can see, we have hills now, little hills in the schoolyard, and a little pedagogical river, which we are very proud of. It's in a very dense and mineral neighborhood in Paris. So it's amazing to see children play in a river during the day in Paris, in the heart of Paris. So that's it. Maybe we can go on. You can see children in the schoolyards performing different types of activities. It's really the idea to develop different types of activities, different types of play, and activities which are responding to all the needs of each children, and to find way to develop their motor skills, but also that their way to interact with others, and also cooperation plays, and maybe just a place to rest and to dream. It's important to have that kind of areas in the schoolyards, which wasn't possible before. We can go on. Thank you. As I said, the schoolyards are open during weekends. Not all the Oasis schoolyards in Paris, because today we have more than 70 schoolyards transforming Oasis in Paris, but we have 47 schoolyards open every Saturday. It's in the 5 minutes city plan, and the idea to have a lot of things to do in 5 minutes walking area around where you live, to have things to do. And the schoolyard is really the heart of the neighborhood, because the idea is to have animation and to build local social cohesion with inhabitants, and have activities to gather people and allow neighbors to know better each other and to be involved in peaceful and pleasant activities just in the neighborhoods. That's it. We can go on. So the next step for us in Paris is to develop outdoor learning in our schoolyards, and more generally learning through nature and outdoor learning. We also want to continue the transformation. We had 70 schoolyard transformed already, but we have more than 700 in Paris. So we need to continue. It's not the end of the path, not at all. So we want to keep the same ambition and maybe go further to have a new technical and pedagogical solution to have really better places in our schoolyards. We are building tools today to help the schoolyard maintenance and the uses, to, for example, the charter of uses for teachers, to help them to have new rules among children in the schoolyard, but also for people who are cleaning the schoolyard, to have new processes and to take into account what can be done or not. And we are building these tools today, and it's really something important to make sure that the project will continue in a good perspective. And also we are really want to diffuse and to make accessible deliverables of the project, the European project, for example. And all the tools we are building, we want to make them available for everyone. We have a lot of other French cities which are very interested. We are more than 200 cities which have had contacted us and wanted to have information about the project. So, and all the big cities in France are leading such projects. So it's really a tiny revolution concerning green schoolyards in France. And I think it's also something elsewhere which is already done or something in progress, I think. So we really want to share the knowledge we had through these 3 years of the project. So we are really we will be really happy to exchange about it and to give some information if you need. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Raphaelle. The idea of to actively involve the community and the children in the actual making of the schoolyard, I think is very, very interesting, especially for a public space project. We do know that to ensure sustainability, an active relationship with the users is always beneficial in the maintenance as well, as you mentioned. And this is particularly interesting for many European cities today. I think Athens had an open school initiative as well, which might resume operation. Not so much with a focus on climate adaptation, though, more on creating spaces for action in the neighborhoods. But this is food for thought, because I do think that the Oasis project is adaptable, is scalable, and as I said, relevant to our times. So thank you for this presentation. We can now move on to our next speaker, who is Irma Ventayol. Irma is from Barcelona City Council. She's leading strategic and cross-cutting projects on a sustainable vision for the city of Barcelona, and will now present the way Barcelona developed their CAP, their climate action plan. So Irma, if you are with us, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know how to start the video. Should I have it? Should I make it, or?
If you prefer, yes, please.
Okay, because I put start video, but I received a message that say you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
Irma, would you like us to share your presentation, or will you share it?
I can share it. Can you see the screen?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, just a second. So thank you very much for inviting the city of Barcelona to explain our experience about how can we implement climate plan in the city from the governance perspective. You know that climate change is it's a big challenge, maybe the most important challenge that we are facing, and involves all the actors that we have in the municipality, from waste department, water department, biodiversity department, social department, economy department. So really all the areas that work in the municipality, but also actors that are not inside our city council, like NGOs, trade unions, schools, experts, companies, big companies, small companies, etc., and also other administrations, other supralocal administrations. So to work with all of them, it's a crucial things to be succeed and implement our climate strategies. No. So when I accept to participate in this important event, I was asked to explain how in Barcelona we are facing a governance in that sense, no? And this is like a resume about what I will explain today. So tackle climate change requires first a paradigm shift that involves implementing a very profound and ambitious changes in a short time, no? 8 years, according to IPCC. It also requires to face, no, that we have long-term measures, because some of them are long-term measures, no? Our plans, most of them are for 2030, or if we are planning to be carbon neutral, is at 2050. So we need long-term measures, but our political cycles are very short, 4 years at least in Spain. So this requires a lot of consensus, but without lowering ambition. So this is also another challenge that we face. It is also important to manage uncertainty, because we have some projections, we have some experts that help us to understand what climate change are doing, no, and how it's affecting our city. So we need to base our decisions with the knowledge that we have available in that moment, no. But that's quite difficult to do that, no. We also need, and we learn it, that we need to incorporate the concept of risk in planning. We did it in some cases in the past, but now this is more important. And also, as I mentioned before, we need to work with other departments, with other territories, with other administrations, and with all actors of the city. So we need to be transversal, multi-scale, act at multi-level, and try to co-produce our measures. No? Another thing that I think is very important regarding governance is to be transparent. So to generate information, to share it, to make it comprehensive for all publics, report every year, etc. And of course, we need to acquire new knowledge and new skills. No? So how we are facing all of these 10 challenges in the city of Barcelona? No? First of all, we have a very ambitious plan, a climate plan. This plan, it was recognized in 2018 as the best plan from big cities in Europe. I will also take an opportunity to congratulate the city of Paris, that this year also its climate plan was recognized for the United Nations as the best plan. But as I say, our plan, it's quite ambitious. It has like 4 big issues, that is mitigation, adaptation, climate justice, and citizen action. And regarding mitigation, we pretend to reduce our greenhouse emissions 50% from 1992 to 2030 and being carbon neutral by 2050. Regarding adaptation, we would like to increase 1 square meter for resident in the city, and maybe you think that that's not much, but not very much, but in a city like Barcelona, that it's already built and that the city it's quite small, it's very dense. We don't have space, so it is also an ambitious goal, this one. No? We are putting green in the roofs, in the facades, everywhere we find a space. No? Another goal of adaptation that we have is to reduce our domestic water consumption till we succeed to arrive to 100 liters per resident per day. Regarding climate justice, in the city of Barcelona, I have to say that we have 24% of our population that has energy poverty. So our goal is to have 0 people in this situation at 2030. Also to have 100 clean funding, and at least regarding citizen action, we would like to have 1 million subsidies per year for citizen projects, for collaborative projects. This plan was consensus. No, we talk about the importance that these long-term measures fights with the short political cycles. So this plan, with its 240 actions, has been consensus politically, and it was approved for our plenary in the city council. So this is a good thing for us. So does it mean if the next year we change our political government, it's supposed that this plan will remain? Yeah. Regarding uncertainty, we try to base our decisions with the best knowledge available. In that sense, we make some climate projections with our meteorological service of Catalonia. We also develop different vulnerability assessments regarding this information, and we create an expert group that are formed of 70 experts of our region that are specialists in different areas like philosophy, communication, energy, oceanography, physics, etc. We try that this group could be very holistic and could make us recommendations in all of the areas that involves climate change. We also talk about that is important for this governance to incorporate the concept of risk in planning. And in that sense, we are working with our resilience department, and we have like a new methodology to involve different stakeholders to solve specific risks. Here you have an example of one of these tables that we create that can talk about energy questions or urban planning or people attention, mobility, etc. No, it's a group that includes people from the municipality, but also big companies that act as suppliers for us. No, and as I say, we also make a vulnerability assessment inspired in the climate projections that we have, and we analyze how this rise on temperature or the lower water that we have available could impact to the biodiversity, to the energy flows, to heat, to health, to forest fires, for example. No, how it will affect the infrastructures. All these studies are public and they are at our website. Yeah. More things. To work with all other departments, no, we as I told, we have to work with sectors, with districts, no, with our specific territory, and we organize ourselves with this scheme. We have like a driving group that they try to lead and to push to make all the climate plan actions implemented, and also to make the reporting. And this driving group, it's formed by the Climate Change Office, which I am the director, the Energy Agency, the Resilience Department, the Public Health Department, and the Social Rights Department. So we are the driving group. And then what we have, it's like a technical political table, a political technical table, I don't know how to say it, no? That it's formed by our politicals and also by the directors of the most important areas of the city council. Apart, we work with the districts. We have 10 districts in the city. We have a referent in each of these districts, and we work with them with these subjects, climate change subjects. We also have working groups with some sectors. For example, with water cycle, we have a specific group. And also we have specific projects, working groups of specific projects like the Climate Shelters Network that I will explain later. It is also important to be transparent and report. So we report every year. We make an annual report. We give information like this. I mean, how are we going respect our goals now, for example, regarding climate, global warming gases, we are at 42% of our goal. And here you have like a graphic that explains how we are. No, we have this kind of graphics for all of the goals that we have. And we report also every year to the CDP, the Carbon Disclosure Project. And yesterday we received that we have an A. That means that we report quite good. Yeah, very good. It is also important to have training about climate change, and in that sense, we make some formation, some courses to our municipal actors, but also to NGOs, companies, and other actors. And it is also very important for us to say that this climate plan was made with a very important participatory process. We create in 2019 a climate energy board to define specific measures that was included in our climate plan. And this climate energy board, it's also a forum where the city council will be held to account for any progress made and fulfillment of the commitments that it has taken on. This board is a working group of the Sustainability City Council that is a participatory group that formally represents a network of more than 1,800 local organizations. Here in this graph, you can see that half of these organizations are companies or organizations, 27% are schools, 16% are civic entities or citizens organizations. We also have professional colleges, universities, etc. So regarding a specific project that we also share with Paris is our Climate Shelters Networks. These are spaces that provide climatic comfort to the population. They are activated during heat emergencies, but during these episodes, they also have their own uses. No, if you are a gym, you can continue making your classes of gym. Or if you are a library, you're continuing to making your activity, but also you add a new activity that is to act like a climate shelter. It's especially aimed at people related to heat, and it can be indoor, like like libraries or gyms or schools or civic centers, etc. But it also can be outdoor, like parks and gardens. So we created this network 2 years ago, and this network now we have like 155 public spaces. Facilities or parks and gardens. Now, we have a protocol, an activation protocol that was consented with all the parties involved. We also create a participatory working group for citizens from this network that I told you before. We interview more than 400 people to find out how they think about this network. And we are now carrying out a new participatory consultation focusing on territorial groups and population sectors to see how can we improve these networks. So to create this specific project, we also work very much in governance. We also have a driving group that it's formed by Social Emergency Service, Resilience Department, Communication Department, and our Climate Change Office. We also have a steering committee with directors, a working group formed by facilities, all the facilities like libraries, civic centers, schools, sports centers, elderly care centers, etc. A referent of one of each facility are involved in this group. So at the end, we are like 40 people in this big group implied. And then we also have a technical secretary that help us, and we are involved in the support of C40, that it's a network of cities, because this project is a project that are inside the Inclusive Climate Action Project of C40. So what we make also is to say every year, to make an analysis about how it's working this network. Now we have that 92% of our population have access to one of these points at 10 minutes walking, when all the network is activated, like for example in Wednesday or in Thursday, because if we calculate that on Sunday, then our coverture passed from 92% to 70% more or less. And here you have also a graphic about the different kinds of facilities that they are. For example, 30% are libraries, 80% are local facilities like civic centers, and 26% are parks and gardens, and 11% are schools, 7%, sorry, are schools, because as Paris, we also have climate school shelters network. We have now 20 oasis schools, in the city. So this is all that I like to share to you. And if you have any questions, they will be very, very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irma, for this very rich presentation, moving from the areas, the more theoretical part, the areas of your CAP, to more concrete actions like the climate shelters. It seems that Barcelona has gone above and beyond in trying to bring the stakeholders in this process to understand the needs of the city's most vulnerable. We can now move on to our last speaker, who is Meric Ozgunes. Meric is the program manager for social inclusion and social services at the major development agency in Thessaloniki. And she's going to, hi Meric, yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Could you share my presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. So until it comes on screen, as Stefania said, I'm from the Major Development Agency of Thessaloniki, and I've been supporting since 2017 the Municipality of Thessaloniki in 2 different sets of action planning. One is arrival cities and the other one is roof. We can go to the next slide. And I'll be talking a little bit about these 2 networks and how we have been action planning at the local level with the support of the URBACT 3 program and the basic principles of that program. So according to the JRC Sustainable Urban Development Report, you'll see that the strategies that will be promoted at the EU level is seen to be, is prioritized to be integrated and place-based, multi-level, multi-stakeholder governance, etc. So URBACT supports cities in groups, in networks for exchange and peer learning. And at the same level, it supports them with technical assistance in actually ensuring wide participation at the local level, using the integrated urban development principles, which are vertical, meaning with collaboration and participation of different government levels, horizontal, meaning the participation of different groups, non-state actors, municipal services, other municipalities, etc. And territorial also means that it's not just while we were working, for instance, in these 2 action planning networks, we didn't only focus, and we don't only focus on the city of Thessaloniki, the center of Thessaloniki, but we are working at the metropolitan level, so including all 11 municipalities. Next slide, please. So the Arrival Cities Action Planning Network, supported by URBACT, was focusing on the integration of migrants and refugees. The refugee and migrant issues were in the city integrated under social services, but it was quite weak in terms of response or specified response to the needs of these groups, and especially with refugee crisis happening and the large numbers of refugees arriving in the city, there was really a kind of paralysis at the institutional level in the ability to respond, especially in terms of services and tailored services. So this action planning network was supporting us in looking internally into the municipality on how we need to change within the institution, in the departments, etc., to be able to better service this population. Also including social cohesion activities, self-reliance, like employability services, non-formal education, promoting access to services through interpretation services in municipal departments, etc. The second action planning network is focused on ending homelessness. It's the Roof Action Planning Network with the cities that you see on the screen. It's focusing on promoting housing first to combat homelessness. Focuses also on better data collection and use. And in the case, especially of Thessaloniki, we are primarily focusing on generating affordable and social housing stock. So next slide, please. So URBACT, while working within the networks, it requires that each partner develops local groups so as to co-produce city strategies and action plans, so that also one can foster shared ownership and also diversify, let's say, the measures that you can have that not a single actor will be able to implement. So next slide, please. So what we did in Arrival Cities, if you can think that it was being prepared in the midst of an increasing refugee flows and a crisis of management, basically. Second of all, there was no national policy in place or updated national policy in place. It was from a time of basically adapted to a migration framework and not a refugee framework. It was in an extremely volatile environment because people were on the move and in transit. And that meant that you had to adapt and plan services for people who are in transit, but at immediate services, let's say, but also long-term services for integration and inclusion. Plus, as I already mentioned, it had to take into consideration old and new communities who had very, very different needs. The action plan was voted by the Municipal Council of the city of Thessaloniki in April 2018. And we prepared this together. We started with a small group, a local group, which included non-governmental organizations working on migration and refugee integration, and as well as other municipalities, the regional authority, and international organizations and institutions as well. This small group then would consult with a much larger group, which was the Urban Working Group, which was set up in order to coordinate among all humanitarian actors in the city, which had about 120 individuals participating. So there was a constant dialogue between the smaller local group and this larger urban working group. We did a series of workshops testing our ideas and the measures and the implementability of the measures with this group. So next slide, please. And the roof network is still ongoing. We expect that we will be passing the action plan on affordable and social housing in July 2022 from the Municipal Council. And it actually it was born out of the concerns that we had while we were preparing the action plan for refugees and migrants, which was the severe lack of housing, which could be linked to social programs and integration programs in the city. And the strategy actually focuses on combating homelessness in its wider definition, so not only people in the street situation, and housing exclusion in the city. Again, it is also a planning process that's ongoing where there's no overreaching national strategy or government institution that is, mandated to deal with housing issues. So again, like in our rival cities, we did a citywide baseline study because there was a huge knowledge gap. We didn't have much idea in terms of the supply of housing or the condition of housing, nor of the demand as well, and the degree of housing exclusion in the city. This was completed some months ago with the Aristotle University, and it has actually helped a lot of the local group members, as well as the strategic planning process, in having focused actions. And one of the examples is that we discovered through the study that there's a huge potential in tapping into closed and empty homes. If you think about about 1/3 of the housing units in the city of Thessaloniki is empty at the moment. So this helped us to focus our actions, and also because it has knock-on effects on multiple policy areas. So like energy, upscaling, combating energy poverty, etc. Apart from provision of housing. This meant that the consultation and the participation process had to include really very different sets of actors, both at the grassroots level, but also at the government level. So several ministries, we are currently consulting and kind of co-producing some of the more legal or technical elements with several ministries at the national level, but also several non-governmental actors at the local level as well. So we have in the local group working on this action plan more than 20 members from different municipal services who are actively engaging, as well as NGOs. And as I said, we're working through a formal task force with the Ministry of Labor on a social housing project, which is very important in terms of aligning policy and also different funding strands. So it has been important, it will be very important for the sustainability, let's say, or the implementation of the strategy, to be able to use the different funding strands originating from different policy areas like energy, inclusion and investments as well. So next slide, please. So what were the challenges? Because there were quite a few challenges and some still remain. Citizen participation is one of the main principles. We definitely try to go as low as possible involving grassroots organizations, but ensuring citizen participation widely requires resources. Going to the neighborhood level or engaging citizens is a challenge because, to be honest, in the process that we are running at the moment, it's not very easy in terms of resources and manpower to be able to organize that. Another problem we had, especially concerning the refugee integration aspect, was the question of who represents who. The municipality of Thessaloniki has a council for integration of migrants and refugees, but mostly, the migrants communities, because they're old communities, were organized in terms of, associations, etc. Whereas new communities like refugees were not organized. And also into these types of consultation mechanisms, non-formal groups and actors would not be involved. So it was a question, how will the refugee voices be represented in this process? What we did is we conducted through 3 months focus group discussions in multiple languages with the support of the UNHCR in order to kind of formulate more tailored measures for the action plan, which was very positive, I think. But I have to also say that during implementation, it has been extremely difficult to continue this type of participation in implementation, in let's say, collectively thinking about how implementation is going. This has been one of the weak points. And another thing has been negotiating between vision and practice. So you might have a great vision, but in practice, some of the measures might not be implementable because there might be weak internal commitments in local authorities. The institution, in the case of arrival cities for refugees, for instance, there was no department to properly work with. Now there is one, thankfully, and that's one of the results also of the action plan. But this was one major challenge. Another challenge is that when you are planning at local level, in the absence of a national strategy, it's very difficult to ensure both the sustainability, but also some meaningful action in key areas. And what do I mean by that? Because in Greece, the system is quite centralized, so the mandate of municipalities is quite limited as well. And I'll give an example, like for undocumented migrants and providing services to undocumented migrants, due to national legislation, it was extremely challenging to develop measures. So how do you circumvent that? And that's where the local group came into play, because we were collaborating with a lot of organizations doing street work and grassroots work who could actually work with these populations. So we would be, let's say, at the backstage, but supporting these organizations. The same goes for the housing issue. In the absence of national legislation that can facilitate certain processes, it's almost impossible to take meaningful regulatory measures at the local level. So the action plans, both of them, included a strong element of advocacy and acknowledging that for it to be, let's say, widely, to be true to your vision, we would also have to actually push for legislative change at the national level. So yes, that's it for now. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Meric. You described a very interesting journey there. I think it's nicely how you went a step further beyond just coordinating the urban response to develop commonly agreed guiding principles for your city strategies and your action plans. which that actually made visible the pressure on the housing market. And that took you a step further to develop the social rental agency, not just for refugees, but for all the homeless and those in risk of homelessness, as you also defined. So one could say that there is a continuity to this process, a legacy, possibly an ongoing cultural shift on the role of the municipality in this new ecosystem of other stakeholders. But maybe I'm being very optimistic here, but you know how much I admire the work you do. So thanks again. I'm not sure if we have any questions. Yes, we have a question.
Can you hear me? Okay. How many questions can I ask in due time before I start? Yeah. How many questions can?
Start with one and.
Yeah. Okay. To Mr. Gerolimatos, what interesting about the reaction of children in the process of planning? Can you elaborate more if you can for that? And what was the negative reaction that you said you have also? What's the correlation between the two? Yeah, that is the first one. And ask them all. Whether
May I understand, you asking what was the negative reaction concerning the involved children in the participatory plan? Something like that?
yeah.
It
Was from the
No, there was no negative.
the
On the
parents.
contrary, it was a very positive experience from any of them. But the fact is that if you have a society that is closed, it's very difficult to even act in a WebEx or in a Zoom on a platform like this. The major problem is this, that at the moment the families, the communities is closed, it's very difficult to penetrate the fear or the, what can I say, this the conditions and the conditions that we are dealing concerning to have participatory actions is very difficult. So the major issue was that we have not so many people that were involved, but the people that involved, they have a very good experience. They have they proceed with big expectations. They see something different, and it was something very, very nice. It was for me. I didn't expect it. I expect that it's inordinate. No, the people that involved and the teachers, but mostly the pupils, the children was very happy. It's something new, and they felt, and we have this sense. It's there was no negative. The only thing that, okay, if you have a school that is partly open, when it's open, you have COVID, they close some, let's say the second class, the first class was closed for a number of days. It's very difficult to have a community organized. It's something that, in one case, it was very difficult. We start, we stop, we start, we stop.
Okay. The next question is to Miss Raphaelle, City of Paris. A similar question: how the children, if you can elaborate, participate in the planning of the school year? What was the reaction and the process? And if you have also data or results in general, the difference, you said it, between the behavior of an empty place to a more constructive school year.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure to have understood well your first question. Was it about children?
Yeah, how they participate in the planning of the school years.
Okay. They participate through workshops with architects, which were helping them to understand why we need to change the schoolyard from a climate adaptation perspective also. So they've, through experiences, scientific experiences, and also observation, they come to understand why we need to change. And they also observe the other children in the schoolyard, and they lead a kind of a survey among children and adults to understand what kind of change we can propose. And after that, the architects and the NGOs of architects, which is working with us on the project, is collecting all that data from the children and presenting it to the adults of the schoolyard. So basically, the project is thought from the production of the children, and we also have a restitution of what the children propose, and they also do some models and photo languages activities, and we organize exhibitions with parents for everybody to see what the children have proposed in the schoolyard. And after that, we observe that the project are really more children-centered, if I can say, because we integrate some activities and possibilities we maybe couldn't have imagined in a schoolyard before. For example, I'll try to explain it in English, but in one schoolyard, we have children said that it's a preliminary one, and they said they are very close to an elementary school just near to them. And one of their demands was they wanted to look at the big ones and to look what is going on the elementary school. So we design in the plan of the schoolyard, we design places for them to can look easily what the elementary schoolyard is. And so it's something that we maybe have not at all integrate if we didn't have a discussion with them. And concerning the evaluation from before and after, and what kind of observation we can make, for now it's just mostly subjective and qualitative feedbacks we have, but it's really interesting to see that teachers are saying that children are more happy in the schoolyard, there are less conflicts, they are more concentrated in class after that. So we really experiment and observe differences, and we have an evaluation going on. It's still work in progress, and I think we will have first results in maybe April or March or April 2022 concerning the social observation of the schoolyard before and after. So, and all of that will of course be public in French, I think, but public, and maybe we can have some summary in English, or maybe try to find a way to share it more widely after the publication.
Thank you. Can I have one last quick?
We are kind of short in time, so if I could address a question before to all speakers, I mean whoever one can respond. In this context of the change of the role of the municipality in this new way of working, I would like to ask how concretely did the municipality manage to outsource some of the resources, like some of maybe the decision-making power, particularly? How easy or difficult was that?
Listen, it's not easy, it's not difficult. It's at the same time. It's quantum mechanics. It's at the same time a lot of values arise. From my point of view, the bureaucracy that that in a way or another is established in the municipalities is hostile against any participatory actions or any action that gives another perspective of what we are doing, what is existing. On the other hand, I believe the citizens are welcomed this kind of treatment when you ask them what you want to, what if you give them some, well, I can say, a procedure that is to discuss this, decide what they will do, and you give them the permission and the space and the time to act. I believe a lot of good things may be arise. I'll give you an experiment. We make in one neighbor of Halandri, 2017, we make a small experiment. We say to the neighbor, okay, we give you 200,000 euros. What you want to do with your neighbor? Everything you decide will be planned, will be performed. And it was quite interesting because all the neighbors have more than 20 meetings. We organize one way how this will be performed, more than 20 meetings, and they decide what they wanted to do. And this, the things that they decide because the bureaucracy that cannot understand what maybe we're doing comes to reality now after 4 years. After 4 years, we have the analyze exactly what was the demand of the people, and from my point of view, it's concerning Greek reality. Okay, probably in Barcelona, Spain, France, it's quite different. It's something very common to act like this, but in Greece, is in one another something radical. And the problem is that the bureaucracy is against, and the people is with this, will participate. It's a question, we'll see.
Thank you, Costa. We have a question online. It's for Thessaloniki, for Meric. So I'll read it. How do you think could such a transformation on a national level happen? Do you see tendencies, or what could be done? Did you develop any ideas for solutions, especially for the property issue on the social housing?
Yes, I kind of answered it in writing part of it, and I was continuing, but it's easier, I think, out loud. At the national level, there is a momentum, especially on the social housing front and the housing rights front, both in terms of national movements of citizens, but also in terms of what's going on at the EU level. If we look at the new Bauhaus, the renovation wave, the decisions of the European Parliament on affordable housing and the need for affordable housing across the EU, etc. So tapping into these and using these processes, so alliances with EU networks where we can pressure the national government and ministries. Working together with the Union of Municipalities in Greece and other networks of municipalities in order to actually create a common language on housing rights and pushing for housing strategy at national level. So mostly through advocacy, we're also planning to provide some technical and legal proposals in order to facilitate access to housing. And through, as I said, the formal task force that we are participating in with the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, which is for the planning of a social housing project, but it's also concerns, like it's the first seeds of developing or looking at housing in a strategic way, let's say social housing for the first time, actually, from an institutional perspective. And the second question is, what have we done on social, what measures are we taking? One of the first elements of the strategy we are implementing, Stefania mentioned it, is the establishment of the social rental agency. So the social rental agency will be focusing on socializing private and public housing stock with a set of incentives for landlords, and manage the housing stock to provide it at affordable prices to vulnerable groups according to their needs. We will be starting with the first stock of houses in 2022. Obviously, this is not the only measure that needs to be in place. Apart from the legislative changes that need to happen, we are also pushing for changes at the programming level, so of programs such as the European Social Fund that funds social inclusion, which can actually support housing projects, and also investment related funds too. And also a number of support mechanisms like technical assistance to landlords in terms of accessing refurbishment and energy upscaling, let's say, funds that exist already nationally, on the condition that they will socialize for an X number of years their property, and other measures that we will be looking into with the municipal services to see whether we can actually have some municipal tax reductions for those owners who are willing to socialize their homes, providing tenancy rights support for tenants, energy efficiency support also for tenants to reduce, because 50% of the costs of housing in Thessaloniki, based on the research we did, goes on energy consumption and heating, etc. So there's a constellation of things that we can do, limited in terms of regulatory action, but that's we are pushing for at the national level, and hopefully we'll manage part of it or some of it.
Thank you. And we have one last question to Irma. So you did mention participation at different levels and different scales. Could you expand a little bit more on, maybe if you could mention the most effective, let's say, coordination mechanism for co-implementation?
Yes, we had like a huge participatory process with a climate change climate declaration that we had with this climate change board that we create. It has like 300 people that represents like 100 organizations. And with them, we make discussions about different subjects of how can we change our economic model, or how can we change our mobility model or our educational model, etc. So in these sessions, first thing we made is to invite an expert from the municipality, so a technician, that they explain which are the challenges that they think he thinks or she thinks that we fight. We share this information, and then we have like a discussion with all these NGOs, organizations, companies, etc. So we have this first session, and then we made like a debate, and they propose some actions to be included in our plan. So at the end, what we made also was to put all these measures in a digital platform that we have, that it's called Decision Platform. So we put all this information there, and so citizens that are not organized can vote which of these measures they think that they are more interesting. And with all this information, and also with the technician recommendations, we create this action plan. Yeah, and for each one of the suggestions that we have from citizens, we make an answer saying this action has been included in that action of the plan, or this action cannot be included in that plan because it's not in the it refers to other questions, or because it's a thing that we already make or whatever. No, so we make all of this with them. And it's also interesting, an experience that we have with subsidies, that we create collaborative projects with these organizations. And what we made is also to have like provide them with a technical referent, municipal technical referent, that helps them to create the collaborative projects. At least they have to be 3 organizations making a co-produced project, and from the municipality we give like 2,000 euros for one for each project. We make like 10 every year, so we give 2,000 euros for these projects, and we help them to define it. We help them also to make all the bureaucracy. That's as our colleagues say, the bureaucracy to receive some money, it's quite complicated. So we have from administration department a person who help us to deal with all of this. And the other thing that we are doing now regarding this question is that we are defining a plan that it's called Change for the Climate, that it's a plan that tries to identify which are the most important sectors in the city, who we could work better. No, for example, this network I talked from More Sustainable Barcelona network. It's 1,800 organizations, but they are interested in fight to climate change. But there are a lot of people, a lot of companies, organizations that has no interest to contribute to the common goals that we have. So in that sense, we are making a plan to define actions, to work with them, to convince them to act in these questions, and defining which things we can provide to them to facilitate the collaboration, etc. These plans, I think it will be launched in January, more or less.
Thank you, Irma. Thank you. And thank you to all for this very interesting discussion. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you again to our speakers and our audience. We can now move on to our next session. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.